So I've come to the conclusion, just a rotten piece of fruit. So I'll end up dying slowly, rotting away. See, I just want to be able to climb without a fall, to get out of this mazeland and run. Please strike me thunder, let me get closer to the.
So it's now 5-6 days later and also fall, because I was an idiot and didn't click the quantity 2 button when I ordered my jet. So jet number 2, these cost $4 a piece plus $11 shipping, so I got to pay that twice, which is always fun. So here's jet number 2. We're gonna put that in. Here we go. Look at that, nice and shiny. Trading out the factory 120 for a 122. And this should help with richness throughout the rev range, but especially at the top end, since this is the main jet. So main jet, secondary jet. The fun part is always getting the bowl back on here. Okay, that actually went really well. Never mind. And that's really all there is to upgrading the main jets on this. It's pretty simple. And then you just gotta stick these back in here, which really is the, that's the fun part, because that's where there's a lot of stuff that can be forgotten. Just start by shoving it back into those bottom boots and tightening them up. There we go. The Honda Shadow was actually released in 1983 as a 750cc alternative to the Harley-Davidson Sportster line of small cruiser motorcycles. The problem, in big air quotes, was that it absolutely decimated the Sportster in pretty much every conceivable metric. Reliability, power, speed, handling, cost of maintenance, cost of ownership, cost to buy it. And Harley-Davidson, instead of coming out with something better, petitioned/bribed the US government into enacting a tariff on all import motorcycles larger than 749cc, or was it large? No, it was larger than 700. Yeah, larger than 700 cc's, which resulted in Honda shrinking the size of the Shadow down to 694 cc's, like this one, and making the Shadow VT700, which is still better than a Sportster, but it's smaller. Some of the neat features that these had, especially for their time, were the, a relatively high red line for a 45-degree V-twin of this size, coupled to a 6-speed transmission with a slipper clutch, gave this Sportster competitor an unusually sporty edge compared to that which it was aping. Oddly enough, Honda kind of gave that up with later revisions, making them a bit more Harley-ish with lower rev limits and lazier engines, which the funny thing is that the lazier engines and the 5 and 4-speed even transmissions resulted in larger displacement and later model Shadows actually being slower. The original 700 and 750cc Shadows are the quickest of the entire product line, pretty much. There we go. Overflow hose. There we go. This is the part that a lot of people don't spend much time on that makes a huge difference down the line if you work on your own bike, is making sure that all the fasteners and stuff are in accessible locations that don't interfere with other parts of the bike's operation. And now make sure not to forget to tighten the jam nuts on the throttle cables, otherwise they will these nuts will rattle off, fall down there and get stuck in the cam, and then your throttle jams open and you've got problems at that point. Got it. There we go. Now all that's functionally left is this plenum, and this is kind of a pain to get on here because it has to simultaneously fit back here and on these two carburetors. Oh wow, that is all on. Large clamp down here and two small clamps up there. Just tighten those down with a screwdriver. The spec on these is Guten tight. These clamps are always a bit of a mess, but I definitely prefer these to the worm style hose clamps, simply because they have a more even pressure to them. This is the same style of clamp that I used on these fuel lines. So at this point, and with a little persuasion, I'll turn the fuel back on. Assuming that there is still fuel in that lower tank, the bike should start. Check for some fuel leaks. Don't appear to have any. So the main jet shouldn't really affect much at idle and starting. This is mostly just a sanity check to make sure before I wrap it up that I didn't screw up like the carb boots or anything like that. I'm missing something here. Oh, we forgot about the spark plugs. Let's do that. Let's do spark plugs for freaking. Boy. Well, that looks like a bike again. Let's pop out one of these plugs and go buy a new set. Alright, back from the parts store. These new plugs are, they're already pre-gapped. They're all good to go. They definitely look better than what's in there. So slam these in here. Go see how it does. So that's the plugs done. This thing's probably ready to go take for a test ride, but after riding it for a day, there's some more final adjustments that I'm gonna have to do. Right in here is the pilot screws, and I'm going to need to reset those now that I've done some tweaking to the fuel air mixture, but I want to get an idea for how it rides before I go messing with that. Stock setting is, I believe, 2.5 turns out, and then there's a procedure involving setting the idle speed and setting those screws once the bike is warmed up that I'll cover in another video. But for now, I'm gonna go get a helmet, go take this for a ride, and see if it's fixed. Coldest it's ever been. missing something here?